Hello party people, welcome back to part 2 of the exclusive buyer broker agency agreement disclosure. So in this we'll talk about the protection period. We'll just hop right in. The protection period basically means that if you are represented by an agent, you're represented by me, and I locate you a home that you really like, but you just can't afford it yet, I guess. And our agency agreement's for 6 months. For some reason that home is still on the market in 6 months, and you go and you decide, like, our agency agreement has expired, this agreement that you're signing, it expired, but you go and you try to buy that property, but you try to cut me out. You say, hey, you don't even tell me about it. You just try to cut me out. You say, I don't want to pay him a commission, but since we already know we want that house, we're just going to go get it. That is, your agent will probably put a term of a protection period to make sure that let's just say if our agency agreement ends in 6 months, I could have a protection period that says if you go and try to buy that home 6 months after, like within 6 months after that agreement ends, you still are liable to owe the commission to my brokerage. So that's something we'll usually put in just to make sure that the agent doesn't get cut out for no reason. However, let's just say that our agreement ends after the 6 month period, and you go to another agency and you sign with another brokerage and another agent, then you don't owe the commission to me, you owe it to the other agent. So, because the contract is expired, but if I were to have located you a home, that protection period means that you can't just go by yourself, make an offer, have it accepted, and then do stuff behind closed doors. The only way that that's negated is if you actually go to another brokerage and sign a brand new exclusive buyer broker agency agreement with another brokerage or with another agent. Next thing is limited agency. So limited agency, you will have to sign a addendum, which means like an additional part of the contract that is not in the original contract. You would have to sign an additional paper called an addendum, and that will explain to you what's missing in your fiduciary duty by a limited agent. So a limited agent or a dual agent is a phrase to describe if you're working with a buyer and a seller who are represented by the same brokerage or the same agent. So I could be their agent and I could be your agent. Now that gets a little dicey, right? Because not all agencies or agents will do this, but there are certain circumstances where someone will choose to have one agent or one brokerage with two different agents. So it could be two agents from the same company, or it could just be one agent representing both the buyer and the seller. So in this case, you have to know that limited agency means that your agency, your agent's obligation to you is kind of limited, because I told you we have loyalty to you, but unfortunately I have loyalty to them and to you now. So it makes it a little dicey because I have loyalty to that client, but I have loyalty to you. So it's kind of limited how much loyalty I have to both sides. I have disclosure, as in like I have to tell you everything that I know, except unfortunately, because I'm a limited agent, I can't disclose everything about the buyer's side. I can't disclose everything about the seller's side. If I know that they just got divorced and they're trying to sell this property like that, I can't tell you that, because I have to make sure that both of you guys are represented. And I can't do that. I got to keep some things that I know that could help you. I got to keep it away from you because I'm representing both the buyer and the seller. And then the last thing is less loyalty. Or not less loyalty, less confidentiality, because sometimes I'll have to say, hey, it's a fine line, because I said I don't have to disclose everything, but sometimes I'll be like, hey, I know a piece of information in the back of my mind that's pertinent, that is allowed to be shared with the other party. So it's really hard because you're limited on your disclosure, your loyalty, and your confidentiality. So I probably, hypothetically, I'm not a big fan of limited agency. Some companies won't even do it at all. But if you were to be in a limited agency situation, that's a very important thing to understand. The next thing is, we are not, as agents, we are not lawyers. We can't give legal advice. We are not tax professionals. We can't give tax advice. We are not accountants. We can't give bookkeeping advice. We're not licensed to be a surveyor, so I'm not going to go and take measurements for you about property lines. We're not appraisers, so we don't appraise property values, although we do CMA reports, which is a lesser, much lesser version of an appraisal, where I would recommend you just get an appraisal before closing on a property. I guess it's actually mandatory to do so, but that's aside from the point. So we don't do certain things. We're not licensed to do a lot of things. We don't originate loans. We're not a lender. So if you want to get a loan, you don't come to us, you go to a lender. These third parties can be recommended by us. So rock stars know rock stars, right? Like people who are elite, you know other elite people. So if you think I'm a good agent, right, I probably know a good lender, and I do. And so if we have a good lender, I'm going to recommend that lender to you, but you can go to whoever you want. If your dad's cousin is a lender, you can go to him. If your neighbor is a lender, or even if you just go on the internet and you say, I want this guy because he's got a lot of 5-star reviews on Google, that you can go hire whoever you want. Any tax consultant, any attorney, anyone that you want at your sole discretion. You can pick whoever you want. That being said, we can refer you to someone, but we are not liable if you don't like them, right? Because it's your decision whether or not you make them. So you can't there is a thing called a tie-in agreement, which we also can't do because it's against Sherman antitrust laws, where it says that I am not allowed to tell you if you want to work with me, you also have to work with my friend, who's a lender. You have to work with my tax attorney, who's a tax attorney. Can't do that. It's not ethical, and it's not allowed, and it's not legal. So you get to pick whoever you want, but it's your responsibility. So with great power comes great responsibility. It's in your power to hire whoever you want, but we're not liable as agents for who you choose, even if they do a bad job. So just be mindful of that, because there's no legal recourse that you can take on us if you choose something like something that, like a third party that's not good, because they're not affiliated with us. Next is dispute resolution. If you're really upset about something, if I did a bad job, if I lost you money, or if you feel like I did something that you don't like, there is a dispute resolution process that tells you that you could take me to mediation, right? And there's a little checkbox that says mediation shall be, or mediation may, at the discretion of the parties, take place. So mediation is where a third party lawyer, they're usually licensed attorneys, a third party will meet with them and will negotiate, and they'll kind of be like the little go-between, where we'll say what we want, you'll say what we want that you want, and in order to avoid a court battle or a lengthy legal battle, we will mediate, right? And then if we can't mediate, then there are other things that happen after the fact, like a trial or whatever. So choose a good agent, choose a good lender, do your best to make sure that you're with someone who's honest and someone that you trust, because you don't want to go to mediation, you don't want to do court, I don't want to do court, no one wants to do court, It's not fun. Try to be with people who are honest and who exercise their fiduciary duty to you, so that you never have to go to court with them, because they're taking care of you the best that they can, and that they're competent to do so. And then the very last key point is that this contract, I guess it can be terminated by both parties, but you have to both agree to it. And not only do you have to both agree to it, but it has to be in writing. So we could terminate the contract or change the contract simply based off of us both agreeing that we're going to either terminate it or we're going to change it. But you can't just do it. It can't be unilateral. It can't be one-sided. So we can't just be like, hey, I don't like this, so I'm just going to change it. We can't do that. We can't be like, you know what? I don't want 3% commission. I want 5% commission. So I'm gonna write that in and change that. So they're gonna pay me 5%. Nope. Once you've agreed to it, it's legally binding. That's why you got to be careful what you sign. That's why I'm making this video, is because you might not know what you're signing, and so I'm trying to make sure that you know what you're signing. So yeah, that's just the important things that you need to know. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to drop them in any comments or email me or send me a text message. I'm always here to answer questions. And you know, if you're signing this contract with me, and if that's why you received this video, then you're definitely able to ask me any questions that you want, because I'm here. All right, have a good day, guys.